Hello, I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist, and this is Radioland, my international radio trends newsletter from radioland.email, and this podcast is sponsored by rss.com, two very fine people. One of them is Alberto, who listens to this. One of them is called Ben, who I'm probably guessing doesn't. But you should, if you are thinking about doing podcasting, you should go to rss.com and learn all about what they have to offer. They've even got an API, so it's super easy for your playout system to integrate directly into rss.com. They could even sell some ads around your podcast too with their paid thing, and that's a good thing. Where will we start today? Well, in anticipation of a trip to the UK for the podcast show. And no, I'm not recording this in the UK because I forgot to record this version last week. No, I would never do that. Anyway, in anticipation of that, I spent a whole 40 Australian dollars, which is just 20 quid, on a little DAB radio. It's very cheap. It seems to work quite well. I've given it a full review. You'll find that linked from radioland.email, including taking a look inside. In the UK, Ofcom has announced a further 6 small-scale DAB multiplexes. So far, 105 of those have launched in the UK. I would suggest that that is a good thing for Australia as well. DAB multiplexes are very cheap comparatively to launch. It means significantly extra choice for smaller areas. Most new cars in Australia have DAB in them anyway. So you might as well, for Toowoomba, why not? Get a little DAB transmitter going up there, or Townsville, or, basically everywhere in Australia outside of the cap cities, and Gold Coast, and Launceston, I believe. Anyway, it's worthwhile a peek at how all of that bit works. In the US, rural America is seeing significant collapse of local news radio. According to the News Pain Points newsletter, it's reported the closure of CBS News Radio, the removal of funding for public radio, and significant layoffs at both iHeart and Odyssey. That's 3 sets of massive changes in less than 6 months in the US. In Indonesia, a multi-standard DRM and DAB Plus receiver platform has been announced. Well, a joint initiative to develop one, really, between 2 companies, CML Micro, Newglee and Glovane. That's 3 companies, isn't it? Anyway, that's not the first such multi-platform module. DRM had already written about one in March 2025 from RF2 Digital, and I think that if you follow a link in Radio World to the story about this new receiver platform, they've got some photographs of the RF2 digital receivers. Anyway, all of that looks quite close to the Holy Grail that I had, which was a multi-standard travel radio that I've been interested in for a while. If it does DRM and DAB+, well, that's a heck of a start. Roxandra O'Brazier from DRM says that nobody wants one of those. So presumably people will want, though, a DRM and DAB Plus receiver. Who knows? Don't really understand. AM Death Watch. Yes, it's a new feature in this. Radio 4 Longwave is to close on June the 27th. Yes, they've given a date. I think that it costs £1.5 million in electricity costs per year just to run those 3 transmitters, Droitwich, Birkhead and Wester Glen. If you add 20% to cover AM transmitter inefficiency, then that's roughly what it comes to. I suspect that the maintenance of it isn't cheap either, so probably £3 million to run those 3 transmitters. Probably, I would guess. Who knows? Anyway, it's fun to read how the BBC palms the reason why they're closing it off to the company that owns and operates the longwave broadcast equipment. And those of us with memories will remember that the company was the BBC until the BBC sold their domestic transmitter network to Texas-based company Crown Castle for £250 million. Crown Castle, which also managed British Telecom's mobile network, sold to National Grid Transco in 2004 for £1.1 billion. National Grid Transco, which then changed their name to National Grid Wireless, was sold to Arqiva in 2007 for £2.5 billion. Arqiva was owned by Australian bank Macquarie until March. It's now owned by Polis Capital, which is an investment company, 2 Australian pension and superannuation companies, Aware and Care Super, but the biggest shareholding, 48%, is owned by a company called Digital 9, a company which is so excited about its future that it's decided that it's going out of business and it's trying to sell their share of Arqiva. So if you fancy buying half of the UK's monopoly broadcaster, then feel free. You're more than welcome. I'm sure that they would be delighted, possibly more than about £2.50, otherwise I would. Now, on my Freedom of Information request to the ACMA, I got advice that I might want to ask the ACMA, in the meantime, for a version of the document that they wish to send me with all of the redactions that ARN wanted, because then that particular version of the document wouldn't need to go through a review with ARN and everything else, and that won't take another probably half year. But of course, no, I'm not allowed it. I don't think that they're right in this particular case, to be honest with you. I think the right of review is for the additional information that the ACMA wanted to release to me that ARN didn't. But if I complain back again, then I may be a vexatious requester and I may not be able to get anything at all. So I think I'll have to sit on my hands for the inevitable ARN request for review, which I would be really surprised if they didn't bother doing. And then we'll be waiting for many months. So there we are. It's almost as if there's a law, but nobody wants to, do what the law says. And interestingly enough, I've just been given a radio listening diary for GFK. It's the diary that's given to people to note how they listen to radio in Australia. It's how the radio ratings are worked out. Now, I'm not filling it in, don't worry, but I am looking forward to taking a proper look at that radio listening diary over the next few weeks. It's interestingly similar, but also different to the Radar one, particularly in terms of the list of stations. So in this blog, I will show you that at some point in the future. Where am I speaking next? Well, if you're quick, I'm speaking at the podcast show in London on May the 20th, which is Wednesday. I'm not, pretending that I've recorded this a week late. But anyway, I'll be keynoting at that event, talking through the Pod News report card, as well as recording a Pod News weekly review, moderating a panel about podcast research as well. Looking forward to doing all of that. Please say hi if you're there. Drop us an email, that would be fantastic. I'm also at Forward, the Western Canada Media Conference in Kelowna, June 3rd to the 4th, and Radio Days Asia in Jakarta in September. Normally a speaker at that event. It's a good event to be at, so looking forward to that. And thank you to the many supporters of this newsletter, including Clyde Broadcast, the radio people, Broadcast Radio, Admaster, Radio Today in the UK, and Radio Zeit for your kind support. Also, thank you to personal supporters Daffith Furnham, Marty from New York, Gavin Watson, Greg Strassel, Sam Phelps, Richard Hilton, Emma Gibbs, Jocelyn Abbey, and James Masterton for being regular supporters. If you would like to support my work in any way, buymeacoffee.com/James Cridland is where to go. Or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, you can buy an ad-free version of this very podcast, and money goes to me for that as well. You can get this newsletter, this podcast, as a newsletter. If you want to, james.cridland.net is one of the places where you can go for that. And that is my personal website where you can find out more about who I am, what I do, and whether I can help you further. And until next time, keep listening.